I'm Jeff. Today I'm going to be going over a demonstration of how to prep a chicken for smoking. Here I have a packaged chicken, and you want to make sure that it's a whole chicken. We don't want just pieces of the chicken in the smoker, which you could do that way, but whole works best. So I have one packaged up here, and normally I would unwrap it, but since it got juice in it and it needs to be cleaned, I've gone ahead and have prepped one here that's already been cleaned and dried for me. And first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove insides, which is mainly just the liver, the heart, and the gizzard, which already fell out. And just discard those because we won't be needing them. Now that I have that done, make sure my hands are dry here, and I'm going to start mixing my dry rub together. And what we want to do when we smoke this chicken is it'll sit on the grill for about 2 hours at around 175 degrees, barely over the safe temperature that food needs to be at to cook. And that long smoking process allows the chicken to stay juicier and not dry out as much, and it gives it a good smoky flavor. First what I'm going to do is make my dry rub. I have my ingredients pre-measured here just to save some time. I'm going to have 1/4 cup of paprika going in first. Next, I have 1.5 tablespoons of black pepper. You could use fresh, but ground pepper works just as good. Next, I have 1.5 tablespoons of packed brown sugar. The brown sugar is just going to add a nice sweetness to our rub. Next, I have some table salt. You could use sea salt, but there's not much of a difference in taste there when it's all mixed together. Then we have celery seed, which you could use celery salt, but celery seed gives you a more robust celery flavor, which is good because we already have salt and they mix together. And then we have cayenne pepper just to give it a little kick of spice. The paprika doesn't really add a lot of spice to it, so the cayenne pepper adds a little kick, and that was 1.5 teaspoons of cayenne. Now I have 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder going in, just to give it a nice garlicky flavor. And then we have another 1.5 teaspoons of dry mustard, which sounds strange, but you can get at any common grocery store. And last we have ground cumin, which gives it a nice oriental flavor. And what I want to do here is mix all this up so I don't have any chunks inside. As you can see, the brown sugar is still lumped up, and I just want to get all those chunks out so it spreads evenly over my chicken. And I'm just going to mix this up a little bit, and it's good to go. Some chunks aren't bad, but you want to try to get out as many of them as you can. So next what I'm going to do is set this chicken aside since I won't be using it. And I'm going to add my spice to my chicken. Now the first thing that I want to do is I want to create little pockets in between the skin here and the actual flesh of the chicken. That way the spice gets right up against the meat instead of having to penetrate through the skin. It allows it to seep in just a little bit faster. Even though it's going to be on the grill for a while, it still takes a long time because we're not going to marinate this overnight. You can just do this right before you throw the chicken on the grill. So I'm just making little pockets, as you can see my finger in the skin, and that's where all my spice is going to go. So there's no real measurement here. I'm just going to take some spoonfuls of spice, get them in between the skin and the chicken and rub them in there nice, and you can see it's turned a nice dark color. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the rest of the back side here. Put some spice in there. And I'm also going to come around to the breast side and do the same thing for the breast. And I just want to make sure that gets all the way down as far as we can reach, and that way it covers the chicken in there nicely. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this rub and also coat the outside of the chicken, just making sure that every little piece of the chicken's covered. That way the skin has flavor too, because a lot of people like to eat skin of the chicken. That's usually the better part when you've smoked it. It gets a really nice smoky flavor. I'm just going to turn that over and do this other side. And just make sure it's coated nicely. It doesn't have to be perfect, as it's going to stick because the skin's still a little moist. Now, I almost have my chicken ready. The last step that I want to do is to make sure this stands on the grill is I'm going to take this beer can and I'm going to insert this into the bottom of the chicken. Now the beer is going to keep the chicken moist. It's also going to add a beer flavor to the chicken. Not a whole lot, but it just gives it a little bit of a hoppy flavor. And I'm going to pour out a little bit of this into a jar here because I'm also going to poke holes in the top of it and add some spice. That way the chicken gets some of this beer flavor, but it's still also getting spice up into the chicken. And that's going to fizz up a little bit, so you might want to put it on a nice plate. So now I'm just going to take my beer and put it inside my chicken and make sure my chicken sits on top of it nicely, like so. And now my chicken is ready to go on the grill.